Prologue. Alaska, 1841. Telinga Territory. The crimson covers the ground like a wet, sticky blanket. His eyes dart from left to right before deciding to settle on the remains of his friend. He looks to the moon that is slowly fading from sight. The thick, heavy snow buries his shoes, which are made from an animal he had killed himself. From behind him, he hears his native language come in the form of a question. "What could have done this?" The man doesn't see the one asking. The large, fur-covered hood shields his peripheral vision. His face is wrapped with heavy scarves made from sea animals. He ponders the question seriously. He gives every thought, every legend, every possible answer serious consideration. He looks down again. He sees part of his friend's torso half covered in snow. The other part lies near a frozen body of water. He kneels to look closer. He and his party have been searching all night for this man and two others, and this is all they have found. He lifts his friend's arm, the right one. It is half frozen to the ground and pops and cracks as the ice breaks from the naked skin. Again, from behind him, another question. What could have brought him this far? Again, the question goes unanswered. The man now stands upright. He drops the frozen arm back to the earth. Then he turns to face the four men following his leadership thus far. His eyes move past them. He searches. His eyes are sharp. He grew up in this frozen tundra. He knows every hill, every lake, which way the wind blows, and what time it is in the spot where he now stands. The exact location he has stood countless times, fishing, the same place he has fished from with his friend, the dead friend that is now torn to pieces lying at his feet. The wind howls, carrying with it many smells. He pulls the scarf down, tilts his head back, and smells the dying trees, dead animals. He looks puzzled at his companions who still stand around him. "What is it?" one asks. And he finally speaks. "The one that did this is still here." "Was it a bear?" "No," replies the man, turning his head to look into the woods. "This was not the work of a bear." "Then what?" His eyes narrow to the woods. He can smell the beast. He knows it's there. He feels the creature's eyes upon him. Then he looks back to the rising sun. "It is the Amarok. They have returned." 1876, Deadwood, South Dakota. "So you're Wild Bill Hickok." The words roll from the man's mouth as if he were pronouncing wild with three long eyes in it. The tall, lean man turns his head, his curly locks blowing from underneath his wide-brimmed hat, one side tilting up over his right eye. His long, down-turned nose overlaps the mustache, a mustache long enough to blow in the chilly breeze as it rushes over his face. "That would be me," he says, with all pretenses of fame removed from his tone. "We knew you were coming." "That's so?" Hickok turns and grabs one of his bags off the coach's top. "And who might you be?" "My name's Marshal Stapleton, Con Stapleton." The robust, bearded man stands, legs apart with both thumbs buried in his gun belt. Perspiration beads above his brow. Although the weather is bitter cold, the man seems to have a fever. Hickok places his bag on the snow-covered street. He turns and pays the driver. Turning back to face the marshal, he asks, "What can I do you for?" "Well, to be blunt, sir, we know your reputation for using firearms. I even saw you perform once with Buffalo Bill Cody." Con, throwing a big smile, showing teeth that need care, he waited for what he was sure to be a generous response at being recognized. But Hickok, sounding more annoyed than flattered, says, "You want a signature or something?" Flustered and stumbling over his words, Con continued with the purpose of his failed attempt at admiration. "No, Mr. Hickok, nothing of that sort. Well, sir, if you'll take notice around you, the streets are empty." Again, and now more evident than before, Hickok sounded exasperated, but replied, "Well, it's cold." "That's not what I meant, sir. We have animals running about that no one can find or kill. They have killed nearly 50 people in the past week or so. And, sir, the sheriff and I are at a loss. We formed 2 posses, and we can't find nothing. And every couple of nights it returns, killing more and more people." Con rubs his hand across his head, swiping back over his brow, removing his hat apprehensively. He takes the hat in both hands and fiddles with it as he speaks. "So what do you want me to do about it?" "Well, sir, if you could join the hunt, we'd be most grateful." "How much?" "How much what, sir?" "How much are you paying?" The marshal's eyes squint as he stares at Hickok. After a few seconds, he asks, "How much do you want?" "It could be a mountain lion coming in when it's hungry, or even a pack of wolves, but I suspect someone would have seen a bunch of wolves running around." "How were the bodies found? What I mean to say is, how much was left?" "Not much. Not much at all." "Sounds like wolves." "All right. If it's wolves, I want $200. My eyes aren't what they used to be, but I think I can handle some wolves." "Very well, Mr. Hickok. You have a deal." Con throws a hand out excitedly. The pressure has now been released from the lawman. He will seem to be a hero among the townspeople for hiring the great lawman to do the work and kill the beast for him. "How often did you say the attacks take place?" "Every couple of nights." "Who was the first one attacked?" "A man named McCall. He and his brother lived near the edge of town." "Okay. What's the surviving brother's name?" "Jack McCall. He found his brother's body and reported it to us, and we've been looking for what killed him every night." "Only at night?" "Only at night," repeated the marshal, as he was back to fiddling with his hat, and then he wiped his forehead using the back of his hand. "Sir, I don't mind saying we are exhausted, and the $200 you requested will be worth the payment if you kill whatever it is that did this." "I want to talk with Jack McCall." "Why? What purpose could that serve?" "I want to know where his brother was attacked. It could be he got too close to a den or something. The animal could have killed him and come into town looking for more. I need a place to start." "Yes, sir, and thank you, sir." Con relaxes some as Hickok says no more. The tall lawman just tips his hat. He turned and began walking to the hotel across the street. Once Hickok made it to his room, he quickly washed off the traveling dirt from his face and hands and brushed his coat and pants, hat and vest. He straightened his tie, went downstairs, and ate roast and potatoes. He was dressed in a black tie and white shirt, a long frock coat that made it to his knees. His guns were fastened tightly around his thin waist, the heels of which pointed outward to form a quick-draw action. His boots were tall and came just below his knees. The pants were tucked neatly into the boot shafts. The spurs rattled as he walked from the hotel restaurant to his waiting horse. Hickok is much older than when a bear attacked him in 1860. He served as a wagon master during the war between the states and was a U.S. deputy marshal in Kansas. Now his legs ached. He still suffered pains in his arms and shoulders from the many scrapes he had been in. He reached up to grab the saddle horn and, with expert ease, lifted himself. Swinging his leg over the saddle, he seated himself tight onto the back of the gray stallion. He rubbed the small of his back as it popped and cracked with each movement of his body. He then tugged the rein to the right, and the horse quickly followed his master's guidance. In a short time, Hickok found himself outside of town, where the townspeople had begun building homes out of used lumber. Some lived in tents, and others slept out under the stars. But this day was different. There was not a soul around. The tents were closed tight. The small shacks that littered the grounds had doors shut and fastened. Not even a candle flickered in the windows. Then the tired old eyes spotted a man standing alone near a tepee. It seemed strangely out of place amid all the tiny wooden houses surrounding it. "Hey, you!" Hickok says as he stops his horse a few feet from the man. "You speak English?" The older man nodded. He was covered in buckskin. Around his neck he wore beads. "You Sioux?" "Yes, I am," the man proudly says, lifting his head high to show he was not ashamed of his heritage. Continuing to look down at the brave, Hickok asks, "I thought you were at war." The native's eyes roll up toward Hickok. "It was halted by the beasts." "What kind of beasts?" The brave did not hesitate to answer. "They are the same that has been hunting here." "What's this beast called?" Again, the man does not hesitate to say, "It is the Amarok." "What kind of animal is that?" "Not an animal." "You said it was a beast." "A beast that can think." "So this thing can think? Then why is it killing so many people?" "The same reason you do. For survival." Hickok paused for a minute before responding. He looked up and down the street. "You're not afraid of this beast?" The man continued to look up at Hickok. His eyes were stern yet soft, and when he spoke, his mouth hardly moved. "I am terrified, but I will not allow myself to give in to the fear." "I see. Good man. Some kind of Indian thing, huh?" "No, some kind of me thing." "Well, I'm looking for someone who goes by the name Jack McCall." "Oh, yes, I know of him. He has moved down by the river. Some say he went mad. They call him Mad Jim McCall. Some do." "Well, I need to speak with him just the same. Thanks, old-timer." Hickok concluded by flipping a gold coin to the old Sioux. He then spurred his horse forward. "Oh!" Hickok turned in his saddle to see what the old man had to say. "You're not the only one looking for the beast." A mile away, not far from the river, two men stand squaring off, eye to eye. Both are confident, sure of their abilities, and accustomed to killing men. "Look, kid, I don't want to hurt you," the taller of the two said. His eyes are squinted, his tone intense, and his hand, cracked from days of riding in the cold, are inches from the heel of his weapon that hangs loosely on his side. Wrapped in dirty leather, the handle, made of hardwood, is varnished to a sheen. "Well, don't," the smug 17-year-old said. "That beast's head is worth a mint to some folks," he added, all the while grinning at the outlaw standing before him. "Yeah, I know. That's why I'm here. Now walk away, and you can live to tell the story to your grandkids." "I know your reputation and all, but I ain't leaving here without that beast's hide on my horse." "Look, kid, I have the upper hand. Walk away, and you'll live. Final warning." "Jesse James or not, I will be the one collecting on that beast today. I know you got that brother of yours hiding out here somewhere, but I ain't scared." The kid's words trailed off. Both looked up to the sky as the sun descended, giving way to the moon. "Oh, darn it! How will I see the creature now?" says the kid, rubbing his chin. "I don't know, but I reckon we better call it a night and finish this in the morning when we can see," said the younger James boy. "Yeah, I figure you're right. Let's head back to town, and—" The howl chilled both men. Henry McCarty was hired by some relatives of a man he worked for. They lost several family members in these very woods. The family offered Henry nearly $1,000 to kill the thing that had killed their cousins. Henry is standing 5 foot 8 inches tall, wearing clothes that seem too large for his slight frame. He grabs the Colt's lighting from his trousers pocket. The kid goes by several names, Billy the Kid, or William H. Bonney, being the most common. He is an outlaw by his own admission, deadly with a gun, the charm of an angel, and the heart of a stone. Very few people call the young man Henry. Most refer to him as the Kid, but sometimes he goes by the more well-known moniker of Billy the Kid. His opponent, who now has his own weapon drawn, is a tall, good-looking man of 29, give or take a month. Like the Kid, he was once an outlaw, and on some accounts still is. He made a name for himself, robbing trains and banks. The only reason he came out here is that the beast killed his mother's first cousin, and she sent Jesse to find the killer. Once he arrived, he was paid by the townspeople to kill it. "I saw a cabin not far from here," Jesse says as he turns in a nearly complete circle. "You think we can make it?" "It sounds like a wolf is all," Jesse says, trying to bring some comfort to the situation. "Yeah, just a wolf. What's so scary about—" Without warning, the kid sees a flash in front of his eyes, a dark, furry moment, and then Jesse is gone into the woods. Not a sound was made. The kid slowly turns to run, but fear fills his spine. He looks up at the large animal that towers over him. He, the kid, has never felt such fear. His arms go limp, and his body refuses to go into the survival mode. The beast that stands before him is covered in dense black fur. His large arms and legs ripple with muscle, and his eyes are red and almost glow with anger. He is a true beast. He is powerful and dominant. No human can compare to the sheer strength of this creature. He snarls, showing canines that are meant to rip a young man's flesh to shreds. The large brow over his eyes furrows and is aimed inward as anger courses through the wolf's body. Billy knows he has no chance, and after what he had just seen, the speed of the animal